I want to give you an update on a story we talked about yesterday on the show, and that is the absolute tragic targeting of the family of a judge, Esther Salas, whose son was murdered, her husband in critical condition following a person who had clothed himself in a fake FedEx uniform, went to her house, and then opened fire. An absolute tragedy that we know a little bit more about today. Federal authorities said, following yesterday's broadcast, that Den Hollander is suspected of shooting the husband and son of U.S. District Judge Esther Salas at her North Brunswick, New Jersey home. Two law enforcement sources told CNN that the suspect died of what is believed to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And since then, we have found out quite a bit more about this individual. He had argued one case before Salas, a lawsuit where he represented a woman and her daughter as they sought to register for the military's selective service. In the case, Den Hollander's client claimed the draft was unconstitutional because it barred women from registering. And this is an area that he was intensely interested in, with his website describing himself as an anti-feminist lawyer who defended, quote, men's rights. He had unsuccessfully filed lawsuits against bars and nightclubs offering ladies' nights, claiming they violate the 14th Amendment. And he filed suits against the federal government, challenging the constitutionality of its Violence Against Women Act, the, quote, Female Fraud Act, as he called it, and against Columbia University for having a women's studies program. I don't know how much further we want to go into his particular writing, but they are expansive and as dark as you would imagine based on that introduction.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, again, it's a matter of misogyny killing. This person has all sorts of just hateful beliefs for women, and this thought that it's a zero-sum game, men have to be advanced, and women should be robbed of any sense of equality or any societal status at all. And he took this out and took the life of this judge's 20-year-old son, I think, who was a rising junior maybe at Catholic University, and also her husband now being in critical condition. And this is what happens when misogyny goes unchecked, and it is brutal.
Yeah. You have to... I feel so bad knowing that being a judge on this level, you've got to be afraid. But we're supposed to be a country where judges get to live without that fear. That's what we're supposed to have. And unfortunately, we don't. We have individuals like this who find, willing radical communities online where, like Tucker Carlson's writer, it wasn't just him posting some blog that no one ever read. No, he goes online to find other people like this, and they just prod each other into ever more radical, hateful views towards a group. It might be racial groups on the case of the writer, although he was a vicious misogynist as well. And in this particular case, this guy who made it his entire life's work to fight back against women, and in his writing has sort of threatening things, talking about solutions to political commies and feminists. That's about as dark language as you can imagine, considering historical context. He says things begin to change when individual men start taking out those specific persons responsible for destroying their lives before committing suicide. I don't know how long ago he wrote that, but that appears to be what he did. I mean, who knows what's going to happen as we find out more about this story, but these people are out there. And
exactly. And they're not just country bumpkins or ignorant people at all. This man was a lawyer, and he worked at Cravath, which is one of the biggest, very, very prominent and prestigious law firms in the world. Yeah. He was a smart man. Like, he was actually, I shouldn't say smart, I should say educated man. He also had very, very hateful beliefs and views. These people are among us. They're brothers, sisters, fathers. They walk among us.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. And, I mean, how many mass shootings did we see over the past few years of people who have identified as being parts of this community and feeling like, so for like, let's say this community, let's say 99% will never do anything violent, but they're all sort of waiting and trying to push each other to be the one that will. And now it's targeting judges. And I know that we might find out more over time. It's described as him being a Trump supporter. I haven't seen anything in his writing that, aside from their agreement on certain communities, about that being any sort of direct impetus for him doing this. But he did have a case pending against her. just devastating. And I can't imagine, like, just pray that, you know, her husband comes out of this, but no matter what, she's lost her son because some madman who had a national platform. He'd been on many different shows. He was on Stephen Colbert's show years and years ago. And all the while, this is who he was.
Yep. And that's the thing is, it's like this stuff goes on in front of our face all the time when we interact with people. We just want to downgrade it and say, oh, it's no big deal. Maybe that person was joking. Oh, they're a little off. When no, these people are allowed to navigate our society and no one speaks up. Just as we saw Yoho go off on AOC and try to tear her down in a misogynistic fashion, and his brethren sit there, join in, and then say, I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
Those same things play out on a daily basis. You just don't know who's going to just stop at words tearing you down, or maybe push you out of a job in some way, and who's going to get a gun and try to kill you and your family members. But the reality is, all of it is because it's going unchecked.
Exactly. Yeah. It's for judges, but it's for reporters as well. Like how many female reporters have been accosted doing live hits and things like that?
Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, we need to fight back. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.